so desperate on my knees to break.
Guten Tag, wie geht's? Welcome to this German-inspired episode. Today we're making 3 dishes. The first dish is Bauernfrühstück, translates to farmer's breakfast, and it's just simple potatoes, bacon, and eggs all together in one dish. I'm also making a bee sting cake, and then the last dish is a simple sausage, pretzel, and sauerkraut. So I just wanted to mention there's a special place in my heart for these recipes because some of my family members are from areas in Germany. Particularly there's some that I know of from Strasbourg, and then also right on the border in France, Alsace, which is right on the border of Germany. So when I'm making these recipes, it makes me wonder, gosh, I wonder how many of my ancestors would have this on a daily basis. Is get some bacon started. Now I use chicken bacon, and I've got these browned up pretty good. And then I also have some chopped up 4 small, just regular yellow potatoes, and I'm getting them soft. And I've added a little bit of water to it just to kind of have them almost boil and roast. And then once that's done, I'll make sure there's no water in it, and then I'm going to add the egg. Okay, so the potatoes have been cooking for about 10-15 minutes, and I did add a little water, but it evaporated. So you just want to make sure that the potatoes are slightly soft. And I transferred them over, I finished the bacon, so I transferred them over to where the bacon was cooking without taking the bacon grease out. So this should make them taste even better. So again, this is going to be for about 4 people. So I recommend about cup and a fourth of egg whites. And in the egg whites, I'm mixing about a fourth of a cup of milk. And then to this, a little bit of mustard, dried mustard. A little bit of chive. A little bit of salt and pepper. And the farmer's breakfast is done. I did wind up putting about another cup. So you want to, if you're serving 4 people, you want about a total of 2 cups of egg whites. I don't know, maybe 6 to 8 eggs, just depends on how hungry they are. And then about a fourth to a third of a cup of cream of your choice. I used unsweetened almond milk. And I would serve this along Black Forest ham. So what you'll want to do is just plate this up. And it kind of turned into, I don't know, it's not really, more like a scramble. And that's okay. It's going to be delicious. And then for each serving, you want to take one of those pieces of bacon, crumble that over the egg. And then this is where if you had some fresh chive, you could add the fresh chive to that as well. And serve it with a nice piece of, I don't have any, but serve it with a nice piece of rye bread. Farmer's breakfast. Give it a try. Very simple, delicious. Up next, bee sting cake. So instead of trying to figure out something that would be a really nice German lunch, I love sweets. So I'm opting for making, from what I understand, I've never been to Germany, hope to soon. One of their very common sweets is Bienenstitchen-Kuchen, bee sting cake. I probably didn't pronounce that correctly, but I think it's so cool. I can just envision because this has honey in it, I can envision in the summer having this warm on a terrace or something and having some bees come by. I'm sure there's some story on how this was created. So I'm pulling out the big dog, the KitchenAid for this one, just because, you know, sometimes when you make pastries, you probably need a hand mixer or some kind of a mixer, get it all incorporated. There's 3 parts to this cake. There is the base, which is what we're going to make now, and then there's an almond topping, and then once it cools, there's a pudding, vanilla pudding center. So first let's get the cake made, and then while that's baking, I'm going to show you, it's just a simple pudding. You could make the pudding from scratch, but we're going to just make. Now, this calls for butter. I'm using 4 ounces of unsweetened applesauce. Going to take 2 cups of flour. I use whole wheat flour, whole grain flour. And for the sweetener, we are going to use honey, but it also calls for 2 tablespoons of sugar, white sugar. One tablespoon of vanilla extract. We're using quick rise yeast. I'm going to put in 1.5 teaspoons. Go ahead and put that applesauce in. That's again 4 ounces of the applesauce. And you could put 2 eggs, 2 small eggs, but I'm going to go ahead and put 1/4 of a cup of egg white. Okay, and then get this mixed up. Start it off on low so it doesn't fly everywhere. But yeah, I forgot to mention a little pinch of salt. Now, because this has yeast in it, I am actually going to let this sit in a warm kitchen. I'm going to put a warm towel over it for a couple hours. So while the cake is rising, we'll go ahead and make the topping that goes on top of the cake before you bake it. I have some slivered almonds, so that's 1/2 of a cup of the almonds. I'm going to put just a little smidge of vanilla extract and 2 tablespoons of honey. Okay, and it's that simple. We're just going to incorporate the honey in with the almonds. Okay, that's going to be good for that. And then the other item, we need to make the pudding. So I am using an instant vanilla sugar-free pudding, and I'm using unsweetened almond milk. And then what we're going to do, let this set up as a regular pudding, and then I'm putting whipped topping. I'm going to incorporate whipped topping. This is going to be the filling. So you want to go ahead and get this in the fridge so it sets up, and you want to follow the instructions for making. They have recipes for pudding, for pie filling. Usually use less milk. You want it thicker for filling. It says 1 1/4. So I'm just going to use 1 cup and see how thick that gets. One cup of milk with a whole box. And pull out your whisk. It seems easier with a whisk. I definitely keep a lot of pie fillings on hand. It's really, if you're in a pinch, it's wonderful to experiment with, and I use sugar-free. Experiment with, they even have reduced fat graham cracker crust. or you could just get regular graham cracker crust. But you know, it's very filling, very nice dessert. I love to have dessert. So at least this way you can indulge. It helps your sweet tooth a little bit. Now you could make regular pudding with flour and sugar and whole milk, and certainly you could look up some recipes and give that a try, and you know, put the filling with that. But we want something that's a little bit easier but still tasty. Start off with 1 cup. And then just whisk it up, and I think 1 cup is going to be great with 1 box. And I chose vanilla, but you know, that's, you could also use the cheesecake one, but I think vanilla works best with this kind of a cake since it has vanilla in the cake. Okay, let's put that in the fridge. They have by way of coffee to go along with that. What kind of German traditions do they have for that? So I found they have it here in the United States as well, but they have, it's called ice cafe. Ice cafe. And it is just simply, you take your coffee and you chill it, and then you find a really good ice cream that has vanilla bean. And it's almost like the Italian affogato, meaning drowning, where you drowned the ice cream with the coffee. How awful. So I thought I would make that to go along with the bee sting cake. And I chose the Carb Smart vanilla. You know, again, indulge, but just be careful when you indulge. And I'm just going to add this to a nice pretty glass. About a cup's worth. Maybe a little more. And then I'm just going to add, remember to have the coffee cold. So then I'm just going to drizzle the coffee over it and add a little bit of, I have fat-free whipped cream. Oh, look at that. Ice cafe. And then for the bee sting cake, it didn't rise a lot, so I'm just going to go ahead and bake it. Now this is a pre-sprayed baking dish. It's almost like more like a dough than a cake batter. I think the bees are going to sting you because you're sitting here trying to work with the dough for so long. And it has honey in it. All right, I think that's about as good as I'm going to get it. Okay, and then the topping, just want to kind of have it spread out all over. This is just the almond and honey mixture. Actually, once I put this on it, it's helping it kind of spread out a little bit more. I don't know if you'd think the honey would make it stickier, but it's actually making me be able to kind of spread it out a little bit easier. Okay, I'm going to put this in preheated oven 375. I'm going to check it after about a half hour. It should rise some, and I want to do the toothpick test. And then if it gets big enough, we're going to cut it in half and put the custard on it. Okay, so you want to make sure that the bee sting cake, it turned out different than I thought it would be. It's not as thick, but I'm going to try to cut it, and I'll show you here in a second. The yogurt, the pudding is exactly what I want. I want it thick, So the pudding, you could do this. So that was just 1 cup of almond milk worked out. And then I'm going to put a whole container. I'll try a half container first. Just mix it in with the pudding to kind of fluff it up. And this is what consistency you want. You want it to be very thick. Just don't mix it enough to where it deflates. You do want it to be kind of thick. Okay, so then as far as the cake goes, what you're supposed to do is try to cut, let's see if I can get it out. Yeah, there we go. So what you're supposed to do is kind of cut it into pieces. So I'm just going to try it with one, because you want to turn this into like little squares. I might play around with the mixture a little bit. I think it's a little too dense. I'm going to cut it again. Okay, so the idea here is to kind of cut the cake in half and then fill it with this cream. So let me try to do a piece and show you. Okay, I've cut it in half. And the idea, and you want to keep this in the refrigerator when you're done. Okay, so this is the idea, the concept. You want to, this is your bee sting cake. And then what I'm going to do is drizzle a little honey on it. I'm going to cut it again. This is why it's probably good to cut it before you put the cream in. I'm going to put just a little, just drizzle with a little bit of honey. And there is your bee sting cake. I can't wait to give it a try. It smells really good. Deutsch Wurst und Sauerkrauten. So it's basically a sausage with sauerkraut, and you want to choose a sausage, preferably like a pork sausage with a little bit of an apple taste to it. I eat pork, but I try to go lighter, and a lot of the pork is fattier. So I did find from Adele's chicken and apple, but traditionally it's served with a nice pork, sometimes a pork and beef mix that has an apple flavor to it. So what we're going to do is grill up some apple and onion. We're going to serve it alongside just any nice sauerkraut that you like, preferably one that has caraway seeds. That seems to be a little more traditional. It could even be the red. I'm also going to serve it up with some pretzels, soft pretzels. And I found some Ingelhofer traditional Dijon mustard. I'm going to serve with that. And it's up to you. Traditionally, I don't think it's served on a bun, but I did find the 80-calorie whole grain buns in the store, the Healthy Life. I think they sell them at Myers, sometimes Kroger. 1 cup. Now this is, I'm going to cook. This is going to be for 4 sausages. So I've got 1 cup. Woo! 1 cup of onion, 1 cup of apples sliced, and this is going to be a cup and a half of potato. This is already cooked. Make ahead. That's one of the things I keep in the freezer as well. I roast potatoes. I buy them in bulk, And then I roast them and either chop them or keep them whole. If I want to have a baked potato, it's already done. I just heat it back up. So because this is already cooked, I'm going to cook the apple and the onion first. And then I'll throw the potatoes in kind of at the last minute and just warm them up. A little bit of mustard. Now that's dried mustard. About a half of a tablespoon. And about a half of a tablespoon of whole fennel seeds. And I kind of crush them up a little. Kind of activate their flavor. And the heat's going to kind of make them pop a little bit too. So you want to just cook this up. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the sausages in. Now these happen to already be cooked. So I'm just warming this up through. But make sure that you check your package with the sausage, and if they're not cooked, you'll need to allow additional time. Now I still have not put in the potatoes yet. Again, because they're already cooked, I would have already put those in if they were raw. And I leave the skin on, but you don't have to. Okay, the sausages have been cooking for a little while. Now I'm going to go ahead and put a cup and a half of chopped up potatoes. If you're using raw potatoes, you should cut those up and put those in first, because they will take the longest. Looking pretty amazing to me. So you want to just cook these until the sausage is either done if you're using raw, or just until it browns up a little bit. Das Guten, das Guten. Everything looks amazing. And I'm serving it with a soft pretzel. And you want to just divide the vegetables into 4 servings, because we have 4 sausages. And this is that caraway sauerkraut. And then I'm just going to top this with traditional Engelhofer Dijon, which is optional if you like mustard, or any kind of a strong mustard. So there is our German dinner. Cannot wait to try it. You can always use buns if you like, but I think I'm gonna, because I'm using the whole grain with pretzel, don't need it. I hope you've enjoyed this German episode. I love international food, and I'm always looking for ways to bring another country into my house by way of cuisine. So give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're liking what you're seeing, and I hope you are. And have a great week. Get to cooking. Make your kitchen smell good. Make your belly feel good. Have a great week. Auf Wiedersehen.